Will this be another high-flying episode, or will it be knocked out of the sky? Find out this week on the Indie Ball Report podcast. Back again, episode number 266 of the Indie Ball Report podcast, the show that asks very difficult questions about, is it difficult to recruit in Gary, Indiana?
Man,
I don't know.
Got done dirty with that one.
A little bit. Just a little bit, you know. But, there's unique challenges that come to certain environments. Environments is probably the wrong word. Certain cities, I guess we'll say.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if you made that worse or not. As long as it's you saying it, not me, I'm fine. Do whatever. Your show. I'm just here. I'll just be the AJ Hawk.
Absolutely a mess. It's as big of a mess as some of the teams we're going to discuss today.
Oh, wow. I mean, it depends on the team you're thinking of.
Remember, this is a show about positivity. We're talking about like 5 teams that could apply to.
There's no need to be that negative in this episode, I feel like. I mean, there's some stuff going on, but I think we'll be all right.
Well, luckily, only people that bought ticket packages will be able to listen to this week's episode.
Yeah, not good.
And with that, we have our segue into the first part of this episode, which, of course, will be
happy for you, Nick.
Yes, I'm sure you are. The Flying Boxcars have announced their Meritus Park opening plans. That's how the Atlantic League calls this. To put it,
so opening plans, do you mean like opening day ceremonies? Do you mean like exciting events for all the fans in a sold out opening day ballpark?
Let me put this in the polite PR spinny way. That what they mean by opening day plans is how they plan to celebrate and honor the most true and dedicated, really hardcore fans for Hagerstown's lone ball club, and continuing the proud tradition of baseball in the heart of the great state of Maryland.
Ballpark's not ready, is it?
There may be some... Look, we want to make sure that when we're able to fully welcome in every Flying Boxcar fan, that they have the true experience that they deserve.
So already being subject to some sort of class system where like only certain people are allowed to be at the game.
Look, everyone is welcome to attend opening weekend, and we truly do plan to make it special for everybody. But, we have to prioritize those that have made a long-term commitment to this ball club.
Only some of you. Everyone is equal, but some are more equal than others. I went down the rabbit hole, you may remember, this off-season and talked to some friends of mine working in construction, and then actually a couple of people who were like acquainted with that, the stadium's job site.
No.
And actually one guy was, when I pressed him, I was like, well, is it going to be ready? He's like, it was definitely behind. That's kind of how this started. And
okay.
I was like, well, is it going to be ready? And he was like, well, it's going to be like, it looks like it's going to be ready-ish. Like he wasn't working on it. He was just like somebody who knows the job site and and works in construction. And he was like ready-ish. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like it'll be usable, but I don't know that it'll be ready. It would be my guess. And I was like, okay, so it'll be in my head. I was like, so it's fine. Like you can play ball there. But man, my guy nailed it though. He was on. It's a ballpark, but it ain't what you meant to do.
In other words, it's about as ready to use as George Santos is Jewish.
Yeah. Oh, let's not breeze over it. There's a solution here if they want to save the ballpark for, a special opening day occasion where everyone can be there. Because I think Frederick's ballpark is available, right?
What other ballpark in the state of Maryland would be possibly usable?
Man. Right nearby. I mean,
yeah. I suppose we should actually have given some background information before we start making a joke out of this.
I mean,
there's not much to really say.
Yeah, I mean, they are going to open the ballpark for some people, and it's going to be like a soft opening, except it's the grand opening in the team's first home game.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Just to spell it out bluntly, the team's limiting capacity, aka entrance, to the ballpark. The season ticket holders, suite owners, 10-game plan packages, Silver Sluggers, boxcar buddies for the initial 6-game homestand between May 4th and 6th. The game on May 3rd, it has been changed, and we'll be allowing them extra time to prepare the facility for action. So it appears that...
So they also lost some home games, correct?
I believe they lost one. That being said, they'll have increased capacity games starting on Tuesday the 14th against Staten Island. Individual tickets will go on sale Tuesday the 14th, so the day that they can actually start having everybody in, they'll be selling the season tickets.
What day is that Staten Island game?
14th of May.
Maybe I'll be there. We'll see.
Or you can just get a Silver Slugger package, and then, you can show up to the first set of games against Long Island and Gastonia. Oh, God, they play Long Island Gastonia to open? That's going to be bad.
Welcome to the league, Poppy. I feel like there's been a bunch of teams that open with Long Island, and it always seems like Long Island has a good opening series, which I'm sure is totally normal.
Long Island baseball tradition. I mean, I'm going to include the Mets on Long Island. I know it's Queens, just run with it. That sure they always do well that opening series. It's only been like 5 times it didn't go well.
How'd it go this year?
One of those 5 times. But you know what happened? Great. The last time it went that bad was 2005. In 2006, it was a damn good year until Carlos Beltran decided to look at a pitch. So, yeah.
Sure. Well, I think here, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if we're talking scheduling, I can talk about that all day. But, it's not great, I guess, in summary of this one. It's not great. It's a tough situation to have to open in.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, look, we don't know. It's been a wet winter. I don't know. It's hard to make excuses. I mean, they've known this is going to be happening for a long while. Like, it's one of the longest ballpark rollouts. We've been talking about Hagerstown for 2 years at least, right?
About that, yeah, 2, 3.
Yeah, good Lord. Yeah, not good.
Not good.
Yeah,
not
just
good.
There's very little excuse for that. You can say whatever, construction delays. I tend to find it's willingness to spend at some point, whether it's the crew that you spent the money on or the, what is needed to accelerate work has not been on the table for investment. But I don't know. I think also I'm trying to remember, there's a good bit of public funding in this too. So I'm also like, that kind of sucks. Like, this is
Stadium Authority funding
thing that is not going to be getting, everybody in on day one. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to talk about much more because we don't really know what the cause was. We can only guess, but it is something where I guess my frustration would be myself, sort of spurred on by a couple DMs I got. And then, a few other people and the people I talked to have been able to look at that ballpark and say, hey man, this thing's, fighting an uphill battle if it wants to be done in time for opening day. And this is how long we waited for any sort of thing on that. Like, I don't know. I guess it's not that bad. I don't even know how many tickets were sold for it. Were they doing single game tickets at that point? I guess they were.
Yeah, I mean, like one guy here, he's already said, I already purchased tickets online for May 3rd opener. How is the team handling the situation? They told him to reach out to their ticketing director to sort that out. So, which is a bad look when you have people that bought tickets for the first game and then you're like, hey, plan.
I just feel like there's a middle ground here of some sort of standing room only situation and a ticket for a future game as well. I don't know.
I mean, like, here's the problem with that, though. If it could be a thing where the fire marshal did not clear them for that capacity.
Yeah, true.
And if that's the case, there's no getting around that. Because, I mean,
yeah, you're right.
God forbid you have a situation there. I mean, the lawsuit that will come from that.
Fair enough.
And also, I suppose, human lives, that'd be a problem too. But really, the lawsuit.
One could argue.
At least the lawyers would make their money. And that's really what's important here.
Isn't it, though? Yeah, I don't really have much else to say about it other than not great. Not the best start. It's a very Atlantic League start to things for them.
It is. They're really following the tradition, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. One of us. One of us.
Gobble, gobble, one of us. Except you, one of us. But
it's funny because it hurts.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I just a bad optic thing, which I mean, at this point, that's kind of become synonymous with large chunks of the Atlantic League, unfortunately. But that being said, I do agree. I feel like this, as you mentioned, was a foreseeable issue, and things could have been done to avert this and avoid this from happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it
And
felt like things
everybody,
were,
it's such an Atlantic League thing to like just pretend everything is fine when like literally people can look at the ballpark like that doesn't look like it's gonna be ready.
yeah, and like it just feels like we've been planning this for so long that this shouldn't have been an issue, and things were going very well prior to this, at least on the surface, and things were coming along. It was a good brand, and the unveil was done correctly, and they were starting to get some pieces in. They added Mark as a manager, which we agree is a pretty damn
Right,
good
Mo.
match.
Mm-hmm.
And at least from a baseball side of things, it's been looking promising. Maybe not, 100% perfect. That's obviously a lot left to be done before we can say one way or the other on that. But it was looking good to start. And now you got this as kind of stealing some headlines on it and just kind of, I don't want to say sweep it under the rug, but it feels a little sweep it under the ruggy where it's just like, we got opening day plans.
No.
No individual game tickets for like
Here's
2
the
weeks.
issue. Here's the issue. It's if we could sit there and say, hey, this ballpark looks like it's at the very least going to be pretty damn close, cutting it close. Option A in their eyes must have been the first option, I guess, would be to do what they just did, which is go right up till about 2 weeks beforehand and say, sort of like tail between their legs, like, oopsie, and like kind of spin it. And then have to go to all your sponsors, probably. I mean, I'm sure their sponsor is still going to be there, but then you have to tell them, like, oh, well, we can't really have everybody there, yada, yada.
Probably won't prorate it there.
It's maybe, I don't know, but it is just a tough conversation to have professionally and while looking professional. The other option would have been like with a month or more to go to been like, hey, this ballpark might be fine. It might be ready to roll on time, but we don't want to roll the dice on like, shortchange anybody or giving a subpar experience on day one when everybody comes out to meet us. So let's go ahead. We're going to say we're going to give back some games here that become away games, and we're going to say home opener is now here. We're going to blow it up, do it big. The people who already had tickets to that game keep their tickets. The people who had home opener tickets now have that. Whatever other games were rescheduled. It's like, hey, it happens. It's just weird now to say it. Like, I don't know. There was a way you could have done it, and you really could have been like, hey, it might be ready to roll, but we just want to be safe on it, rather than being like, yeah, it's not ready. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
there's so many other ways.
The only problem with trying to switch those dates around, though, is look at who they're playing in the first series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does Long Island scream willing to accommodate?
Well, I mean, if you're willing to go up to there, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I don't know if they're going to be willing to do that swap there.
I'm saying you just give it up. Like, that ain't your home.
So you just sacrifice those home games.
Is what it is. I mean, Frederick had to eat a bunch. Do you remember how many Frederick games they had? Well, I mean, look, then you should have built your damn ballpark in time.
Fair, but I mean, I want.
But we're talking long game, and I'm sure that's what they were thinking, by the way, when they got into the situation. Yeah. And that's why they're still doing the weird fake opening.
The long game doesn't promise that I'm going to be the one reaping the benefits.
Obviously.
So why would I do that?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's almost like you're in a town where baseball already failed once. You might want to think ahead a step or two. But who am I? I'm sure I'll see them at their home opener, and I think I'll be seeing them at their season opener as well. So we'll see.
Please don't tell me. Oh my God. Okay, so the good news. Well, good news for us, bad news for them. The official Hagerstown Twitter account has under 500 followers, so we are lapping the field there with them.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, that's
about 4 times the social
presence.
Yeah. In case you're wondering, the Hagerstown Suns have over 8,700. So
frustrating.
Yeah.
Anyway,
there's really just not much more to say about it. It's disappointing. It's poorly handled, and obviously, with the benefit of hindsight, it's like, guys, you could have avoided this. But even in the moment, it's just like, you sure about that? And it was at the point where just trust me, bro, was still good enough. But now it's like, yo, no.
Yeah, can't. I mean, you want it to go, and this is not good for an Atlantic League that needs a new franchise to go well so badly, and like go well as in like they can lose 126 games. They need it to be professional and like a professional front office who handles things appropriately. So that's a tough one, but we'll see. It could be fine. Could be fine.
Could be
but
fine.
After we're already questioning decision making on franchise and ownership selection by the league after Gastonia and Lexington and Charleston and all that. So
yeah, which underrated thing here. Now essentially the grand opening goes from a May 4th Saturday date to a May 14th Tuesday date.
Yeah, that hurts. It's not great.
Yeah. And after the Tuesday game, you immediately have an 11 o'clock school day.
Good morning. Though that's good to not miss a school date game, though. So that's at least good.
But still, that's a hard follow-up, though.
Yeah. I mean, not like the guys are celebrating the grand opening. It'll be fine.
Fair, but as far as the staff goes, you really want to have
still get settled in. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah. Like,
not the kids
it's a full-on 6-game homestand against Staten Island, which, judging by some of the signings they've made, and we'll get to that a little bit later on in the show, that could be a rough series. Like, I'm looking at their opening, and realistically, they go York to Lancaster to Long Island to Gastonia to Long Island to Staten Island.
Oh, yeah. This could be one of those.
Yeah, this could be.
Remember, Frederick opened the year, 0-13 last year?
Yeah. So. This could very well be a big situation of second half, boys. Second half.
Yeah, hey, 2-half system, saving people.
Oh, boy. Aren't they a North team?
Yeah.
Oh, well. So next year's a great year for the playoffs, lad.
Yeah. It's
because we're just going to pencil Lancaster in to win the second half.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking at Long Island's pitching staff as well. All but 2 pitchers they have currently have MLB or AAA experience.
Just last point here, and it may be mean to bring it up, but I'm going to do it.
Okay.
At the end of the year, does Hagerstown have a better average attendance than Spire City had at the end of last year?
That's Spire City attendance.
1345 in 43 dates.
Let me think.
It's that 43 dates and that really skews it because everybody else had about 20 more. But yeah.
Let me see. Yeah, I mean, is it? Yeah, so it's you did have the average for me. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see. All right. I'm going to go ahead and say it's taking forever to open here. Oh, man, are you kidding me right now? It's going to be difficult. Going to make me do math? Gross.
How dare they? How dare they?
I don't think so.
No? Under 1345?
Yeah, like they were getting reported attendance of like 800 a game last time Hagerstown had a team.
Yeah, but that was a rickety old ballpark.
I know, but they also have 500 people following them on Instagram. Like, I hate to be that guy, but it gives you a read on how many people are like interested in what the team's got cooking. Like, that was really negative, but you kind of get what I'm saying here.
Yeah, if you're not really doing a lot to promote yourself,
concerned.
Then what are we doing here? Now, maybe they went ahead and decided to put more of the focus on, what's the exact terminology for more localized, billboards, pocket schedules, flyers, things of that nature. Maybe they made that decision, which would be a more expensive decision. And
They have a lot of
I-
Facebook followers, so that counts. That's something. A great owner once told me Facebook is how you sell tickets.
Well, in that case, then we should chalk them up to at least 2,300 a game.
Yeah, right. Oh man, let's see how this
Imagine
goes.
that owner. I could just see it now. When that owner plays this team, the Facebook series,
Beautiful.
the Facebook face-off.
Oh my god. Let's see. I don't want to be negative on that anymore. It is what it is. It sucks, but I mean, look, hopefully it's fine, and we'll go.
Yeah, obviously the hope is that this just turned to a speed bump that we kind of forget about in 3-4 months from now.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm seeing what else we got here notes wise. We've got.
Otherwise, we'll have to knock this off. And
Nice. Yeah, we got to talk New England, don't we?
yes.
Talking about teams that look like a damn disaster.
Yeah, so look, yeah, I've wanted to just have a discussion on New England for a while. And being that really this is like a Hagerstown transactions and then Frontier League West review week, it feels like the perfect week to toss this in on. So with that said, Hagerstown announced their staff a few days ago. It was Tuesday. And we already knew Jared Edmondson would be the manager. We know the rest of the staff now. Chris Edmondson, his brother, will be the hitting coach. Dan Southville will be the pitching coach. And then Chuck Hernandez will work as a pitching consultant. With the exception of Hernandez, they all seem to be fairly green. Largely college experience. Chuck Hernandez is an MLB vet, 14 years as a pitching coach for several organizations, including the Braves and the Marlins. He worked with Verlander and Jose Fernandez in the past. And that's all from the press release. But the rest of them all seem to just be, they have some experience playing indie ball.
Weird two to pick.
Yeah.
I don't know. Guy who was involved in the tragedy and guy who's recovering from TJ. All right. Sorry.
Both
I
rookie
get
of
it.
the years, though.
Hall of Fame would be Hall of Famer. I get it.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Sorry. That was a bit, it just caught me. I was like,
look,
it's name dropping Jose Fernandez. That's kind of a weird way to
You're
go about
acting
that,
like these two name drops are going to sink this organization.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah. All right. We're going to get a more positive like tilt toward the end of this, but it is worth noting. Yeah. I mean,
it's serious questions on New England
at this point. Yeah. Good Lord.
Like, here's the thing. We mentioned it when Jared first got announced. And like, I hate to rush to judgment on a guy that's never done on the pro level before, but that is still something to go off of. Like a D2 coach at St. Anselm, school I was originally committed to, by the way. Just want to point that out. Go Anselm. But even still, like that, and then some work as a hitting coach and recruiter for UMass Lowell, which again, D1 school, but lower D1 school. Head coach at Framingham State University, never heard of that. And like, sure, a long Can-Am League career, which gives me some faith that he knows like the general runnings of independent ball. He's only been out of it for about 10 years. So, I mean, the landscape certainly has changed in the last 10 years. I don't want to act like, it's basically the same, but there are constants across the board that he'll be familiar with. It won't be like he's being blindsided by it, but like, I got some concerns. I mentioned a minute ago, it's a very green staff. And like, well, yes, they all have played in the Can-Am League. So on some level, they know a bit about, half of how the Frontier League works. They're obviously two different leagues. That's why one succeeded and one had to merge with the other. But still, there is some familiarity there, but I'm very concerned at the lack of a guy that's been here and done it before, especially in a time where there's a lot of guys that have either spent time in the Can-Am/Frontier League or just around indie ball in general, and you could have gotten a manager that was a bit more experienced, has built a team before. And I understand that, like, You don't want to just rush in and grab a guy, and you also don't want to wait too long to get a guy because, as we discussed with, just about every manager we've had on this show, the later you get hired, the harder it is to build a roster. If you get hired in January, February, your back is so far against the wall that, your opening day roster is not going to be the roster you end the month with.
Mm-hmm.
So, I get it. But, at the same point in time, I just have some concerns here about the experience level.
Well, I mean, to go further, I mean, it's the experience level, and it's not. I mean, Billy, when we had Billy Horton on, he kind of took a little bit of exception to our sort of position, and it was Pioneer League specific at the time of new managers in the Pioneer League, new managers in any ball. It's difficult. Yeah, man. I like him. I like Billy. I'm right. Sorry. There's the numbers to show it. I mean, first time managers in any ball, their records most of the time tragic. And part of that is it's bringing in players that are going to be competitive and making your job easier so that you're not, hair on fire during the game, on the bus all the time, max effort, 100% managing, trying to keep people happy while it's a bit of a rocky go, while you're constantly trying to find new people to put it in place. There's a way to make life easy and there's a way not to. And right now, I mean, I was looking at before the show, we kind of talked about, they have 30 guys signed, and I went and found each of their highest level that they've had a league average season at for them. 2 of those were in the Pioneer League. 3 of those guys, their best season was in the Frontier. They had average seasons in the Frontier League. 1 had an average American Association season. 2 had league average seasons in the Atlantic League. Beyond that, it was 5 Division I guys, and there was 1 Big Ten guy mixed in, but it was mostly not the top tier D1 programs.
Non-major
D2
conference
guy. No, it was 4 didn't even have any available. Either they didn't even have a baseball reference page, or they have not had an average season in any league they played in professionally or amateur.
Yeah. And
1 was a draft league guy.
Yeah, I was going to say, just for reference quickly, even Division II or Division III players will typically, and NAIA players will have a baseball reference page. Essentially, if you've played organized baseball on just about any level in North America or Asia or Latin America, you will have a baseball reference page.
Yeah. I mean, I think about 3 of those 4 guys might have been guys who just never had a league average season anywhere they've been. There was a D3 season. That was the guy's best season. 2 Pecos guys, Complex League guy, a Dominican Summer League guy, 4 college summer ball as their best season. 1 was single A as their best season, and 1 was rookie ball as their best season. So, I mean, that's take that against Quebec, and it's going to be a long weekend, friends, and that's kind of what we're spotting. And again, it's not bashing on anybody. It is not wise, I would say, or fair to have a new manager surrounded by people who don't have deep connections surrounding them. If the manager is not the one with those deep connections, it feels like a recipe for disaster. And frankly, a market and a front office situation also feels like a recipe for disaster. And I'm hoping they get some momentum at some point this year to keep them head above water and catch your breath in the off season. They can go maybe with a little bit more organized effort. And it's not to write off the whole season here, but it's a long year, and it looks like it's going to be a long one in Brockton.
And that's the thing here. Even we've bagged on Greg Taggart's type of team in the past, but even he has the connections to get guys in and move guys along. And his teams, while they don't, they won in the past, but they haven't won in the recent past, they still look competitive. They're normally not embarrassing themselves the whole way through. And the experience to be able to at least have connections to fill holes as they come along through the season is invaluable. And we mentioned, the little tease, we had some fun with it in the very beginning of the show when we came in off the cold open, but, Rail Cat Talk podcast interviewed Lamar Rogers the other day, and we were listening to that a little bit. And Lamar talked a lot about that in the interview, where his first year in the association, he inherited somebody else's team. And there was a hard first year adjusting to the league. and building the connections to really be able to replenish and replace guys as they go in and out of the lineup. And, sure, that's the American Association, but that's no different on any other independent league. You don't have to. And at one point he mentioned, he's like, yeah, when I was in an affiliated ball, if a dude got hurt, management, like the parent org, would just move a guy around. If you're high 18, they'd bump up a guy from low A, or they'd send a guy down from double A, and they'd be there for a week and a half until the injured player is ready to come back. And around here, you don't have that luxury. You have to go out, find a guy that'd be willing to travel to wherever the team is on the promise of like, hey, you'll get a shot, but you're really here to fill in for an injured guy. And when he gets healthy, we're going to activate him and probably cut you. And we don't know if that's going to be 5 days, if that's going to be 24 hours, or if that's going to be 3 weeks. And that's a hard sell for a lot of guys. A, and B, knowing where to go to get those guys is even more difficult when you're new to the game. So, it is a challenge, right? And then the other point I wanted to ask, just about the D3 guy you mentioned, was that his senior year? That was his best year? Or
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I suspect it wasn't, honestly.
Oh, well,
I think it was maybe 2 years back.
Okay.
Could be off on that one, but I remember digging back a little bit to find that school.
Okay, because I was going to say, if it was a senior year, I assume he's a recent grad. He probably is a COVID senior, which means you have a dude that's like 23, 24 playing against a lot of like 21, 22-year-old guys or younger. And like, unlike in other sports, it's not as big of a deal. But like, if you're a batter and you're 24 and you're teeing off against a 19, 20-year-old kid, it's a little bit different,
I get you.
Yeah.
I mean, could be fine.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. As I've said in the past, I really do believe in an ideal situation. I understand you seldom ever get the ideal situation, that the plan for this year is really just see what works and make sure the guest experience is top notch and that it's not an embarrassment on the field. Let the young staff grow with a young roster. See who could be part of the plan going forward, because it's clearly going to be a roster mostly rookies and L1s, and say, we're going to run with this core group for 3 to 4 years. And so they mostly expire out and get to the point where we can't afford to keep them because of roster restrictions or otherwise. We let Jared and the boys go ahead and get their feet wet, learn what works and what doesn't work, and then say, all right, this year, on-field results don't matter. Next year, we'd like to see improvement, maybe push for a playoff spot. In year 3, we expect to be hosting playoff games. Year 4, we expect to be contending for a championship. Obviously, there's a lot that has to go right for that plan to happen in this level of baseball with these kinds of teams and these kinds of rules and these kinds of realities that you have to go into. But ideally, that would be the situation. It's also, though, do you have the kind of rope to be able to do that? And I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough read there. It's not, I don't know. There's a lot of red flags. I'm not going to go too deep in. I mean, we should get to our preview here eventually, but we'll see. I mean, there's not much more wait and see left here. We're going up to the season, so yeah, rooting for them. I am.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I don't want to see them do poorly. I would like to see them do very well. I think having a solid New England team doing really well would do wonders for the league. And I think if their goal is still to get to 20, having New England do well opens a lot of doors for you to expand more in that region and be able to really go into that kind of pot system we've discussed in the past, which would have to be the case at a 20-team league, because you can't have 2 10-team divisions. That's not going to work. You'd have to go either 5x4 or 4x5. It's the only way.
Right. Yeah, I follow you.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Hopefully,
I knew where this episode was going, though.
I mean, like, come on. You want to do your transactions first, or
yeah,
do you
transactions real quick. It was a busy week.
Cool.
Let me pull it up, of course, which it was. I was like, that's the tab I accidentally closed. Good to know. Yeah, busy week transactions wise. I'm not going to go in depth on any of them. I'm just going to give a list of sort of the highlight ones that stuck out to me real quick. If I miss anybody that you think I should miss, look, we got a lot going on. If you're like, oh, you should go more in depth, we're doing previews real soon. So that's kind of where we don't want to be repeating ourselves even more than we already do. So, but the highlights on it, like from the Atlantic League side, Gastonia signed catcher Pat Mazieka. I always mess that name up. High Point grab. They re-signed Ben Aklinski. That's huge. And Michael Martinez. Michael Martinez had a down year last year. Let's see if he still has one left in the tank. Lancaster signed infielder Isan Diaz. Long Island brought in Jackie Bradley Jr., Daniel Corsino, and Chris Ellis. Obviously, Jackie Bradley Jr. being the highlight on that one, probably. Well, it was going to be, I was going to say of the league of the week, but really not. I mean, thanks to Staten Island bringing in Pablo Sandoval. So that's a move. Jimmy Paredes also coming to Staten Island. Michael Wylansky re-signed by Southern Maryland. American Association, you got Lincoln bringing back Walter Borkovich. Sioux City brings in Denson Hull, whose numbers have been shaky, but I like Denson Hull, man. I've seen him a couple times. I think he's got something. Winnipeg re-signed Joey Matulovic. Yermin Mercedes going to Kansas City. That's a big one. Goes without saying, honestly. Though, I mean, who knows? Let's see if he can get back. What was that, like in April where he just went off? Like, let's see if
Pecos League star.
Pecos League star, man. People forget that. I should have mentioned that. I got a, never mind. I got a Pecos League thing coming along. Cleveland had a busy week, by the way, a big week. They're coming along. Cleveland's quietly putting together a very good roster. It's definitely a step up from last year. Re-signing Joe Corbett, and then they signed Thomas Dillard, Jacques Pouchot. I butchered that name, but I remember watching him pitch, so a lot of good that did me. And Brian O'Grady, shout out to the Philly Catholic League, former MLB guy there. And then in the Frontier League, Washington re-signed Daniel Frigio and signed infielder Jalen Miller. Sussex County re-signed Ronnie Voacolo. So got some moves, man. These rosters coming together.
Ronnie Volcanoes. What's his FIP?
Oh, man. I don't know. I wasn't ready for that one.
What's his ERA plus? Come on, stat boy.
Boy, I'll fight you. Actually, I
right, stat man.
I think I do have that. Man. I don't know. Let me pull it. See, I actually know this is the spreadsheet I need for this conversation coming up. So actually, I appreciate it because I kind of forgot that.
Yeah. Which can I just point out? The meme you posted earlier in the week, grade A stuff.
Thanks, man. I had that one living. We were talking about it as I made it, and I never posted it. So
yeah.
FIP was a 217 this past year.
That sounds like it should be good. I don't know.
Really good. Dude's nasty. Yeah, I mean, like on that 1 to 100 scale I put everybody on, where 100 is average, she was like a 252 on my scale last year.
What's his win-loss record?
Elite. 0-1 there, big guy.
Oh, okay, then he's a good pitcher.
Scrub. 32 innings. 3 appearances. It's going to be big.
How many saves?
2. What has he got? 14 Ks per 9 last inning? Or last season? Gross.
Oh, that's too much math. That's dangerous math.
Yeah, you can get there. All right, man.
I don't think I can, but that's the difference here. All right, so I guess we could just go right to the review, the last review that we got to do. As we've done on every single review, we'll give you the almanac of it. Then I'll go to Ryan. Where do you want to start? And then, well,
I'll have nothing for you.
Exactly. So last season, Gateway led the West Division of 59-37 record, followed by Schaumburg at 54-41, and then Evansville at 52-44. These were the 3 lone winning records in the division, and thus the only 3 playoff teams there. Washington then brought up the pack of the rest with a 47-49 record, followed by Joliet at 46-50, Windy City at 53-52, or 43-52, my mistake. These are all losing records. If I said 50 anywhere in there in the wing column, that was a mistake. It's a 40. Until we get to Florence and Lake Erie. Florence was 38-58. Lake Erie was 37-59. Not good records, lads. Changeover from past season. Gateway improved by 12 wins. Schaumburg improved by 1 win. Evansville held the same record, essentially. They had 1 more loss, but they didn't have any more wins. Same amount of wins. Okay, they played an extra game and they lost it. So I guess half a game worse, but same record. Washington, 15 games worse. Not good, lads. But you knew that already. Joliet improved by 3. Windy City improved by 10. Good for Windy City. Florence got worse by 1 game. Meh. And then Lake Erie, despite finishing last. Oh, wait, my mistake. I wrote a plus when I meant a minus. They got worse by 12 games.
No,
that's on me. Sorry about you guys' hopes up. My bad. But you had a good Eclipse party, so good on you.
That's something. Count it.
That's an early win. They started off 1-0. What more do you want? How many other Frontier League ballparks held an Eclipse party, huh?
Fair enough.
The crotch. There's going to be like 2 fan bases. They're like, hey, we had one. I'll be like, go away.
Your marketing was also aggressive. Doesn't count.
Ruin the narrative. Don't make me get my glove. Any case.
Oh, my God.
Evansville defeated Schaumburg in the wild card game. Then Evansville defeated Gateway in 3 games. And then Quebec defeated Evansville in 5 games to win the championship. So good season for the Otters. Just fell a little short. But when you lose to Quebec, who is retiring, Carl Jelen is number 2, by the way. Did not mention that, but number 34 is getting retired in, I believe, the end of July, maybe end of June. I don't read French that good. So, yeah. It's the end of one of the J months. That's not January, because that'd be weird. Although doing it during the Winter Festival would be fun. Quebec's just such a diverse place. It's a very nice place. I highly recommend Quebec. God, I love Quebec. Any case.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah. God, they're just so wonderful. That fleur-de-lis. Oh, God, beautiful.
Focus in, big dog. Good Lord, this is dragging.
That's all we have in the Almanac section. Let's talk about the West teams in flyover country.
So, I mean, we want to start at the bottom of the standing or want to start at the top of the standing? I mean, it feels like the only 2 directions we really have.
It's my show, but I hate making decisions. You decide.
Good God. All right. Let's go. Bottom of the standings.
All right. Talking about the bottom of the pile. Let's see here. Lake Erie. We just mentioned they had a really cool Eclipse party. Jared Lemieux had his first year there. Couldn't hit at all. Nope. Some would say they couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat, which, considering they're on a Great Lake, would be very difficult. But I would not recommend going Great Lake water. We've seen that catch on fire before, so that's not good. This team never caught on fire, though. Pitching was pretty meh.
Yeah, I mean, legit, the standout pitchers were also relievers. Like, basically nobody taking the field to start a game in Lake Erie last year was real impressive, which is kind of wild. It was a rough one.
JD Hammer.
Love JD Hammer, though. Go to war for JD Hammer. JD, he had a good year, right? JD's peripherals were not fantastic, and he's in a bit of a pitcher park, so that's why I kind of hold it against him. He had like an average season in my book. But,
how could he have bad peripherals? Did you see those spectacles?
Yeah, obviously, dude. But that's for in front of you. He's gonna have issues on the right side. Anyway, Darren Reagan's obviously fantastic. Trevor Kunkel, Perry Bewley, they had great years. They had good years, I'll say. But yeah, I mean, if the offense could show up to the party, it would have been huge, man. It just
Villalobos is 123.
Nobody hit more than 9 homers. Nobody broke double digits in home runs, dude.
Counterpoint, though, Jack Harris is 25. That's getting kind of older for this league. That's not great.
I mean, yeah.
I would counter, though, that Sean Cheely at 24. Okay, actually, the problem is my batting average standing that 217. It just doesn't do good. Even worse, the on base at 281.
But that's the thing. 96 slugging is like.
Yeah, that basically means he's a dink and dunk hitter.
Good on the base pass, but
yeah, he doesn't walk at all either. Oh God. Okay, well,
they have a lot of guys who would be great on other Frontier League teams where they were not just expected to be main producers, but they got a bunch of guys that you usually pick up as like your 7, 8, 9 hitters in a lineup, and they would be serviceable, and then fill the lineup with it. You can't do that. It's just.
This goes back to the conversation we just had about New England first year manager.
Yeah,
in Jared Lemieux. Right. And the thing is, I do believe Jared will be good, but the results aren't there.
No, I mean I do love the name Shondito Trump though, so that always sticks out to me.
Ottawa champion alumnus.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. Whatever happened with Isari Keenan? I don't think he's there anymore, and unless that was a mutual decision or a team decision or Keenan just being like, "I don't want to be here" decision. I don't
retired.
know. Retired at 23?
Oh no, Quebec, and then retired a week ago.
At 23?
That's what I got. Traded
an odd
to
decision.
Quebec in November, and then retired list.
I mean, that's only like he's just turns 24 on opening day. Why?
I mean, he did hit 239.
Sure, but
you're an average guy.
Yeah, but the year before he hit 287.
Lefty
with 11 home runs. Like, I'm just saying, like, I think it was worthwhile to keep going.
Let me see. We play the guessing game. Yeah, I don't know.
It's not time to sell real estate yet, bud.
Puerto Rico might not love the idea of a season in Canada. It's gonna say it.
I mean, like, I
mean,
guess,
never hit.
Like,
I mean, he hit 287 in 2022. Beyond that, never hit better than like 250-ish. If we're talking average. I get it. If I'm honest, I mean, hey, he was on the RA12 team for Puerto Rico, though. That's not bad.
I would have thought it would have been worth to stick it out for another year.
I'm surprised to see him not, continue, but who knows?
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like, Ian was like, I don't want to be in Canada. Like, unless it's like, I don't want to be in Canada, move me somewhere else. And then Quebec was like, we're not rushing on this.
Yeah.
And so he's like, well, fine, I'll retire. And so then it's kind of like, okay.
Survive.
Yeah. It could be that, but also at the same time, if you have a guy that don't want to be here, like, you might as well move him for something. Even a player to be named later doesn't more good than that. So that doesn't make much sense then. And Quebec's too smart of an organization to not do the smart thing.
Yeah, I feel you there.
Yeah. A lot of Quebec talk early on. I bet everyone expected that. Unironically, I say that.
Lefty bat, infielder with some versatility. I mean, there's value there.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I don't know. I kind of felt like there was more in the tank.
I can follow you there. It's a little surprising, but not. I mean, it didn't knock me on my ass to see.
Yes, but any other thoughts on the team that's logo is a grape?
Not really. I mean, I think we briefly spoke about them at some point here. It's just everything needs some TLC, man. And we'll talk more. I mean, we don't want to get in a preview. It's just that it was not for success. It was a tough first year for, from the manager perspective, but hopefully they're heading in the right direction. So that's the optimistic take.
Well, sorry about dogging your team, Nate, but we just did.
My bad, Nate. I mean, Nate knows it. Like, Nate, he talked about the issues that they were facing.
Yeah, he's smart and he knows it, so
he's aware. They are actively working on those fixes.
Exactly. Like, yeah, I know there's problems. We got to fix them. I plan to fix them. So moving on then to Florence, we go to Kentucky. Brian Fuentes was nice. Gave you games. Was a solid contributor. Brennan Price, for a 27-year-old, did what you expect a 27-year-old to do in this league, which is good. And Zuber, he was 43 bags is good.
Yeah, I mean, they had some people.
Sid Richardson's kind of nice.
Hold me back down as I was talking. Back to the top. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I mean, offensively, that's one conversation. I know it's a hitter-friendly park, but even in a hitter-friendly park, Brendan Price, Super, and Massey all had good years.
I mean, I expect Massey to be good, though, at this point.
Right, obvious. Ed Johnson was only there, young guy, but for 35 games. He looked good. Zade Richardson, felt good about it. Brian Fuentes as well. The problem is there is a pretty steep fall-off there lineup-wise. I mean, they're talking about a team where you could really roll through a 7, 8, 9 most days. They just had trouble getting something going. And with that pitching staff, it just couldn't connect the dots there. I mean, really, other than Aaron Rund, and he was coming out of the pen, like you get 22 innings of like above average pitching, and then a bunch of guys who were pretty much below the average throughout the season. It's a tough way to go about the year.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit too of some guys that fell off that were better the year prior.
That they were expecting to be better. Yeah, that's tough.
Harrison D. Nicola is like the prime example of that. You know, he was expected to do more and he didn't. Cole Brannon, also in that grouping there, was good with Washington in 73 games. He gave, you know, quality at bats, quality amount of innings and games played there. 280 hitter that stole some bags and did that. Just played 57 games in Florence and never really got going there. Stole some bags, yes, but, you know, still not really, you know, the production you need when you bring him in. So I think that's part of it. And then, going to pitching wise, you know, I like Martinez as an inning eater. That's pretty much Carter Spivey was good, but, you know, wasn't there for that long. Nathan Florence was good, wasn't there that long.
There was a lot of that. Yeah.
Ryan Watson was good, not there that long. Each one of those guys, you know, 8 starts, 9 starts, 8 starts. Okay.
That does not a rotation make.
Exactly. That makes a great month. Great 2 months. Yeah, like, come on now. So that's the problem. Nick Ernst in 10 innings, though, was dealing.
Yeah, right. There's moments. It's just putting it all together. It wasn't enough for the offense that they're bringing to the table, you know, which had some holes in it.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, I'm even looking or trying to find relievers here. Are there any real relievers? Aaron Rund, I think you mentioned. Is there any other relievers here really that
climate? He wasn't. I would say he was below average, but he had moments where he did impress a little bit. Yeah, I mean he showed some signs. It's just if he could miss a few more bats, he has it. He gets the strikeouts, but it felt like occasionally he dragged his way into a count that was like he would get a little too deep, I think, and would get overexposed, and guys could catch him. But again, one of those things that could be just in my head, but I felt like I saw it multiple times watching Florence. But he's a guy who, you know, he's 25. He has a couple of years still where we could see something out of him. So that's not necessarily, you know, that's not this is who that guy is. It's just, you know, that's who he is right now and who he was last year, I guess.
Yeah. And again, another first year manager in Chad Rhodes.
Yep. Difficult, but hey, they love Chad there. So that's fine, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Chad's great for the team. He's very active with the team. So I think that's a positive. He just needs to, you know, get a little more experience. And this is, like I said, what we were talking about earlier. The numbers bear it out. It's hard to make a transition there. Even for guys that were, like Chad, a pitching coach with the team the year before, hard to make that association or that change in stepping up in the responsibility. Jared Lemieux has been a pitching coach and a bench coach for many, many teams in the Can-Am and the Frontier. Had a hard time with that transition.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. Yeah. Another guy that had a hard year is in Windy City, and Richie Sexton. First year, had 15 different batters throughout the years, which is crazy low. And really, it's 12 because Hoovy, Reynuso, and Wiley played 14, 13, and 9 games respectively. Everybody else had 42 or more.
Yeah. They're basically rolling the same 12 out there. It was pretty good work.
Yeah.
Love the line consistency.
Although that being said, having to do that's a 182 hitter for 66 games. Questionable.
Look, it's not the best vibe.
Pitching wise, at least there was a little bit more changeover. There's 32 guys that threw a pitch here, although there is a little bit of crossover there between some of the guys that, you know, are position players. So just
it was. I was going to say it was essentially Bren Spillane and friends.
Oh yeah,
this season, like it is what it is. It was, and Spillane too. I know he's not a guy that you'll love because you know he had the 247 batting average, but he had some power. He had some power. He got on base, and he was by far the most productive batter in the lineup. I mean, 100 points higher OPS basically than anybody else that was taking the field. So that'll help. But yeah, I mean, pitching wise, other than 6 nasty starts from Henry Omana, it was essentially just, you know,
there's some Derek guys, but I mean,
Eric Crispin looked good. Garrett Crispin looked good in covered some innings, by the way. So he fought through a couple starts too, where I thought he won't last that long, and he ended up, maybe some early runs, and he fought back, and he was able to finish it. I want to see his pitch mix because he strikes me as a guy who has fallback options essentially, where if it doesn't go well to start the day, he's like, all right, let's see what else we got. Could have just been takes a little while for things to get going, but I noted him a couple times watching a game where he started, and I was like, he had some some early runs when you'd be like, well, this guy might make it out of the third. He ends up going 5 or 6.
Which, can we also talk about how Cole Belair fell off a little bit? Like, I knew he only threw 12 innings before, but I
don't really know what that was really.
I feel like actually looking at his numbers actually feels just like regressing back to what he is. I hate to say it.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same.
Yeah, I don't mean to put it in harsh terms, but I'm, kind of direct. Selway also was good. Just last point, I like Selway. Not much bullpen arm, but still, I liked him. I thought he was good.
Yeah, gotta get just
the whip got to be fixed.
The pitching staff doesn't need a ton. I mean, a little more depth is going to be a big thing, but they really got to figure out that batting order. It can't just be Splain.
Well, Splain also got sent to New England, didn't he?
Yeah, fair.
So it ain't just
got to figure something out.
Bobby Jenks, have fun with that.
It might still be just Splain, but we'll see.
Speaking of former major leaguer, Dan Schleier's second year in Joliet. Any real thoughts on that? Slight regression, but still about 500 across the board in his tenure in Joliet. Now, I'll sit here and tell you that Mike Pinto's an upgrade, 100%. And I don't think anyone in their right mind would say otherwise. Just like, I don't know anyone that would grade him below an A as a manager, right? That'd just be stupid and bulletin board material.
Waiting for it.
Yeah. But
point
that remains, though, is batting wise. Not good.
We're talking batting.
I want to talk batting because pitching. There's stuff to talk about here. There's guys.
It just wasn't a complete lineup at all. I mean, you're rolling out half your lineup hitting. I mean, well below average. We're talking guys with like a 60 or below OPS plus, which is crazy. Like
you can't on an RBI. That should speak volumes here.
It's just Matt Warkentin. Look really good, very good. GJ Hill looked very good. Liam MacArthur also looked solid to good. Hit above 300. That's what you're looking for from him. GJ Hill's going to be interesting. I don't know where. I'm trying not to do a preview out of this. That's my battle constantly.
Right? No preview.
I know, 22 years old, though, putting up some good numbers. So you like to see that. 15 homers from him, 27 from Mark Henton.
Spray bottles.
But outside of them, it's just very, very little offensive production. And it was just a rally kill a lot of the time.
Can I say it again, like I said earlier, where it's like, I feel like there was a lot of, we expected this guy to be better based off of what he did the year prior.
Yeah, fair.
Because noted Ivy Leaguer and Dartmouth grad Matt Feinstein, who will do well in life, was very good in 22. Like he did it across 2 leagues, a lot of time in the Pioneer League. But when he got to Joliet, he produced and he did well in Ottawa for a little bit. And I'm not going to really I'll be blunt. I don't give a shit about the 3 plate appearances in Gateway, but
that's fair.
Still, overall, a near 300 hitter in the Frontier League that has 6 home runs in that span, drew some walks, 30 walks in about 40 games or so. There was a reason to believe that there could be something to work with here, an OPS of about, quick math, say about 910. There's a reason to believe he could be a productive guy. TDJ was, a little bit better the year before, although generally speaking, he seems like a guy that just kind of likes being there and they like having him. So for some reason, I thought he was better than that. Matt McGarry was important in 21 with Schaumburg. The numbers don't bear it out, but he got a lot of big hits there, and then he improved in some areas, regressed in others in 22, and then kind of got the worst of both worlds in 23. it almost feels like to me they expected guys to do better than didn't. And unfortunately for them, the 26, 27, 28 and up group on the batting side of things didn't produce to the level they needed to. And they kind of burned a lot of 22, 23-year-old guys that had good years. You mentioned Hill. Barrymore, not great, but for 23, there's probably enough there to give him another year. There's a lot here that says he shouldn't get it, but I think there may be enough of a justification to give him one more. It just feels like they kind of bet on the wrong spots with the wrong guys. And with a dude that used to be a pitcher as the skipper, it doesn't surprise me that he didn't do a great job building a batting team.
Yeah, it was definitely an imperfect mix, and there was some betting on guys that it really, I'm not sure they deserve the bet, but I get it. I get wanting to back your guys. So we have to be realistic about it. And there's guys I'm always supportive of managers who would like take a risk and back one of their guys, even though, maybe the signs aren't good, but you can't have so many of them that, it should be, if that doesn't work out, that's okay. You have other options. And I feel like there wasn't a lot of that going on. I think, yeah. I mean, by the way, shout out Tyler J, who was pitching for the Mets tonight. Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have much more to add. I think you're right. I think it was all of these things combined into one mess for Joliet, unfortunately. But they're not as far off as they might seem, especially for a team that regressed last year. But they definitely need to make some big strides, because there's a lot to fix in not a lot of time.
As far as the pitching side goes, though, I don't know how much time we want to dedicate to pitching here, but Cole Cook continues to be impressive. Lowest ERA in the league with nearly 140 innings pitched and still nearly a strikeout an inning is so damn impressive. But the thing that gets me the most is the 4 home runs allowed and only 28 walks in all that time.
Over 137 innings. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a line. Love that.
Yeah. Like, what was that, about a walk and change a start?
Yeah, I'd love to see, if I really deep dive it, I could probably figure out how many like crooked numbers he gave up. But if you're not walking guys, you're not giving up bombs. Like, that's a really good way to do well in any league you're in. Obvious. Like, I know it's not groundbreaking, but man, it's nice when you got it, and it's just so rare to find, especially at really this level or any level. I'd love to find that for the Phillies, but Aaron Nola loves to give up solo home runs, and I am in constant pain. Where were we?
Yeah, man. We were at the point where we're talking about Cole Cook. Like, if he were to go to Quebec, we would just not even know what to do with ourselves.
Yeah. Oh man, like this one. I'm sorry. I'm looking through Cole Cook's outings now. Like, first
I'm doing the same thing.
Any crooked numbers. Third outing, he gave up 3 runs in 1 inning, but it was the 9th inning. He was 2 outs away from a complete game.
Gave up 5 runs in the game against Windy City on the 28th of June, but he went 7 innings there, so it looked like he kind of just took one for the team.
Yeah, we got no
5 against
numbers.
Schaumburg. If you look at the Schaumburg game on the 10th of August, 12 hits, 5 earned.
Off the top of my head, it's only like maybe 3 times he gave up more than 1 run in a game, in an inning rather. It's pretty great. It's nice to have. Don't let things get out of hand.
Yeah, I would say so. August 10th, I said. They won that game still.
Nice. Dogs.
Let's see here. Cole went 6 innings. So let's take a look at 6 innings. I gave up 3 in the 4th. And then 1 in each of the next 2 innings before getting yanked.
Okay.
Okay, not bad. Otherwise on Joliet, honestly, the rotation I liked. Larkins wasn't bad. 8 innings as plus. Ricky Castro, 23 years old. I like what I saw. 80 innings, 4 ERA. You can definitely work with that. Cam Afterhide.
Sure. I'll give you that.
All right. Nearly 100 innings, a 5 ERA. Not great, not terrible. but I think that there is something to work with there, right? Like, I think it is acceptable.
They're
And there's
building
some-
the right direction for sure.
Exactly.
Even with this switch over of manager, I think that's they shouldn't see much of a sort of need to reset.
Exactly. Like, I'm sure Mike's going to bring some of his guys, no doubt about that.
Mhm.
That being said, there's a lot of guys here that are already a great baseline to work with.
Some
And-
managers come in and have to tear down to get their guys in. I think this is it's a build up for sure.
Yeah, I'll avoid making a previewy, but this is a team where I could see them being a surprise team next year.
That's fair.
I think there's seats there. So
I'll leave it there. But yeah.
all right, last non-playoff team, Washington Wild Things. Safe to say the most disappointing team this year?
That's tough.
Just giving off the track record as of the most recent. I'm talking just in the Frontier League, but just going off the recent track record, like they've been pushing, contending for a championship for a very long time, and then to come out be 15 games worse. Third year manager too, so he already kind of knows what to do, and he's succeeded before. It's tough.
Yeah, when you spell it out that way, I think you're right. I tend to look at it as, competing in a tough division. The top three in that division did come up and were really good. But no, you're right. And I sometimes forget that it was a 15-game step back. Boy, that's sizable when you think about it that way. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, 62 wins in 22 to 47 in 23. I mean, that's not losing a guy or two. That's a team taking a step back.
Yeah, that's a hole that was exposed for sure.
No.
And I mean, when we talk about what it is, I mean, first of all, what works offensively, Andrew Czech, Anthony Bricado, Robert Chayka, and Ragnar Lagrange all played almost every day, all looked great.
Scotty DeBrule too.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I wasn't as big on one home run and almost 400 plate appearances. I get that's not necessarily his thing, but
286, 286, 286, 286, 286.
Coolsies, that's great. But like in the Frontier League, you like to see a little bit more.
286.
I mean, the average OPS was 769 in this league, and he put up a 737. Like, he was technically a below average hitter for the league.
I wanted to fight this more, but he also took a step back because he was a lot better. Here, and even coming out of college from Mississippi State, like, I want to fight for him a lot more. But I have a harder time doing that.
I'm fine with it. I mean, look, as a middle infielder, you don't need a ton of power, but like, it is kind of wild going. I mean, one home run, I'm sure he would like to see more from himself on that, but you don't need to harp on that. It was a good year for a 25-year-old middle infielder. We'll see. There's something to build on there, but that's why I kind of hesitate on that one. The problem is below that point, it does start to drop off. I mean, Tristan Peterson wasn't. Yeah, I mean, that wasn't a real sore spot in the lineup, but once you get beyond that, it started to get a little bit thin.
Tommy Caulfield kind of in a Peterson grouping, and Nick Gatta didn't play enough to really make, I think, that huge of a difference. But I mean, I half the season, I guess, but Yeah,
and it was just difficult for them to put together full games. I always felt like it was tough to get them rolling offensively on the same day that they're also sort of rolling on the bump. And that was also because they were thin on the mound as well. I mean, they had a couple good starters.
Yeah.
Goosen Brown, but he wasn't around the whole. He wasn't, at least. I'm sorry.
He wasn't a starter. He was a reliever.
Frigio. Yeah, I was thinking of Frigio. There's
and
two
Zach
names
Kirby
that we're
pronouncing
on that.
Yeah.
Zach Kirby, he's one that's going to be interesting to watch what they do. Look good. It looked really good, honestly. Above average.
I'd like the strikeouts to go up a bit more, though, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a concern. There was a lot there. I mean, he could the control was fine. I'm okay with his strikeout rate, if I'm honest. That doesn't really strike me because he misses bats and he's not walking guys, so you can get away with that. Right. He keeps the ball in the yard, so he's doing everything else right. So guys are making contact off him, but they're not going deep off him, so you take that as a win. Yeah, I mean, the ace of the staff, certainly Kobe Foster, got it done with some great consistency. I mean, 7-5 record shows you kind of the run support he was dealing with, but a
Yeah.
2.66 ERA, 101 innings. What else could you ask for him?
Mm.
Christian James out of the pen, nasty, pretty much all year.
Solid dude. Very solid.
Yeah. What was it? 13 earned over 52 innings of work. That'll play. And that K rate was high from 11. Yeah, 11.2 strikeouts per 9. So,
he's always been good at that, though.
He's just a guy where he needs to figure out his control situation a little bit because he had a couple outings which were pretty squirrely. So that's one. And that's it, though. You really have to bring it when your offense is going to have moments of just like, are they going to be here? Are they not? And the pitching, again, had troubles putting together the whole game. A lot of games you have a good start and then not great relief work. You'd have a good start, but no offense. Sometimes the offense would show up and then the pitching would collapse and they lose 10-8. You're like, oh, seriously here. So there aren't major swings that have to be made here for Washington to get where they're trying to go, which is good. It's only a few holes, but I guess it's one of those things where I'm trying to express this. It's not one of those ones where, oh God, they need a lot more offense and a lot more pitching. They just need to fill that gap because they had a big enough gap on both their offensive side and their pitching side that it was tough enough to line them both up on the same day. And that cost them. And I think that probably cost them 5 to 10 games, just that back and forth, plus probably a few more in, having to burn extra pitchers to find the guy who can get through the game for you to lock in a win. And then you're in a bad spot the next day. So I think they're not far off from being back to where they need to be, but definitely you can see where the hole was for sure.
A couple of points here. One's more as a general point to a team, than the second one's on a couple of guys on the pitching side. First one is just, I do wonder too if that inability to put together complete games really affected them, because we saw over in the East half of things, there were more teams vying for that last playoff spot. So there was some parity around that kind of mushy middle section. As per in the West, realistically, if you look at the teams, with the exception of Florence and Lake Erie, if you look Windy City, Joliet, and Washington, they're all within 4 games of each other. I mean, that's not like crazy different. It feels like that parity right there in that solidly middle tier is also what kind of put them in. So when you're playing teams that are more in line with where you're playing, that kind of, I don't want to call it skill level tier, but when you're in that kind of situation,
you're playing even competition.
Yeah, it makes it tougher to string things together, and it makes it tougher to kind of get away with it, right? Like,
that's fair. That's a good point.
Exactly. Like in the East, you could reliably be like, okay, well, we're going to play some teams here that are just not good. They are below us where we're at. If you're Rockland or New York, rather, and you're seeing a series against Ottawa, you're like, okay, this should be a 2 of 3 series. If you see Three Rivers, you should be going, all right, this is a series where 2 of 3 isn't bad, but we are hoping for a sweep. And if you see Empire
2
State,
out of 3 ain't bad. Oh God, Meatloaf.
And Empire State's a series that you should be winning. We're just going to keep going. So I do feel like it's kind of tougher to string that together when you're Washington and you're like, okay, even Florence and Lake Erie, it's like 2 or 3. That's the goal. And then you see like Joliet and Windy City, and you're like, need to win at least one, would like to get the second one. Right. And then you see the 3 playoff teams that are, as we're about to discuss, notably better constructed and produced better. That it's tougher to get those wins and get those surprising upsets. Where if you're, say, like Sussex, if you take a series from Quebec, you take a series from New Jersey, no one's like jaw dropped or anything. You're like, yeah, I can see them taking a couple series there, especially if they're hot. It just feels like it's hard to get things going. That's the first point.
Yeah, I can follow you there.
Yeah. Second point, I'm just curious to know what you think about a couple of guys here that I saw. The first one would be Justin Showalter, 93 innings, 5.5 ERA, kind of a swingman, 12 starts, 12 relief appearances, has a complete game in there. Strikeout rate is low, admittedly. Hit rate's a little high, admittedly, but he's 24. So I'm curious what you think on him. And then there was one other guy that I believe is 23 that I was interested in talking about. I have to find him again, but while I'm looking for him, thoughts on Showalter?
I mean,
if any.
I know I have thoughts. I mean, he improved over last year. I think for a 24-year-old, he brought a lot to the table. You know, he was able to give you good innings. He was able to do it out of the pen and out of the rotation. I'm trying to think back through some of his starts I actually watched, because I actually can remember a couple of his relief outings, but I feel like I didn't learn much. So whoops. But it's going to be a matter of gotta start missing some bats, man. And that's, you know, I don't know what to tell you about that.
Yeah.
It's just going to be his whiff rate was 6th percentile last year. It's just not feasible, at least because it's not feasible over the course of 5 to 6 innings, and certainly not over one. So that's why it's difficult to see him as a starter or a reliever. He has a 5-pitch mix, which is good, but all the pitches kind of nothing really stands out. He's a sinker guy first, and the sinker, the fastball, the cutter, and the changeup all have hard hit rates over 20%.
Yeah.
So it's
the
not
pitches that you get burned on.
People are really only missing the cutter and sometimes the slider, and that's where you're seeing that the lack of strikeouts, and you're seeing guys really barrel up the ball at him. So he's going to need to figure out something on. And I wish I could see a little bit more about the break profile he has, but what you can definitely tell is the pitcher looking pretty different coming out of his hand, other than the cutter kind of mixes in. Okay, but he doesn't throw it very much.
I was going to say about that. Yeah.
To find something. My guess would be, and again, this is not looking at pitch profiling necessarily, but would be that sinker and that fastball are probably not, and the cutter not differentiating enough to really make guys worry about them. So a little bit of late break, it probably doesn't have enough late break to even really catch guys out. So if you can get something where it's spinning a little bit more and getting that break a little bit earlier, you can start to get guys out in front a little bit more, where they're like, oh, that's not going to be a strike, but it's happening already. I'm just trying to see a chase rate. It's, not bad.
I was going to say, what's the chase and miss rate compared on the changeup and slider? Because I am curious to know that.
Yeah, hold on. So I don't have the chase rate just specific to the slider over here, but we got the whiff rate on the slider is like 11%, and then sinker, fastball, and changeup are all 5%. So it feels like probably the fastball, sinker, and changeup are kind of not bringing much to the table. I mean, guys are. I mean, I'm almost like
they're not being fooled by it.
Get rid of one of those. I mean, I don't know.
Focus on the other 4.
Cutter, sinker is kind of weird. I know the weird thing is the best pitch results wise seemed to be the cutter, but he was also getting hit hard on it. So, and he only threw it 50 times. So
it almost feels like he got hit a couple times hard on it, and then was just like, I'm not going to throw it again.
Well, pick a pitch. That's kind of it. Like, he needs to pick one, and that needs to become the out pitch. We're looking at right now, the put away pitch is the sinker. That's fine, but he's using it in every count, which is okay. That can work. But I would love to see, and it's in here. I'm not doing a full breakdown of it right now, but Jack put in the work. But he's using, when he's behind the count, he's basically going sinker a lot, which is fascinating to see. He's going sinker slider a lot. I just don't know. Something there is not fooling hitters. So it's going to need to be really working on one of those in the off season to get something that's going to do something that will look a little more similar out of his hand, because he is sort of separating when he's coming through. There's not a ton of tunneling going on with the sinker compared to the other pitches, and I think that's kind of screwing him. I just think that it's going to come down to that. He needs a pitch that actually is fooling people rather than being, oh, it's a little different. It's a little, it feels like guys are going up there and not thinking about it. And that does kind of start to follow more with where I saw him during the year. It just didn't seem like guys were uncomfortable. It just, if you tell me he's got a fastball and a sinker, I'm like, yeah, okay, that could be a problem. But then when they're both coming in 90 or below most of the time, I'm like, he can react to that. Plus an 85-mile-an-hour cutter is really not going to do much to fool that many guys, at least not guys in the middle of the lineup.
Okay. The other pitcher I want to ask about, and he's older than I thought, so we could be quick on it, was Lucas Young as a guy that's a de facto closer, 14 saves, but he got hit around. I mean, I want to use it as kind of like a segue into, do you think there's a young pitching core here that you could develop into being the guys for the next 2 years or so, 2-3 years? Obviously, Lucas Young may not be exactly that because he's, like I said, already 26, and I think he's got a couple Frontier League years on him already, so he may not be one of those guys.
I don't know, man. I think he keeps guys off base. He could be one of those guys who's just a core, like a core, middle relief to late relief bullpen guy, depending on what you're looking at. Yeah. I think like he could also be very valuable if you're trying to move him. That's my other thought.
True. I mean, like if you compare his 22 to 23, it's actually a really good way of doing it because he threw the exact amount of innings.
Yeah, nice.
He was used in the same role here. And it just is such a worldly different result. But at the same time, the team was also significantly different for the worse. So, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have much on it other than I think he's worth giving it a go again. I don't think he's part of the long term. I would kind of see what he's bringing. I think that's a guy who still holds value in the American Association as well as the Atlantic. I mean, his numbers weren't mind blowing, but he was, he did give up a few more homers too.
That's the thing.
Tough, man.
That's the thing. And like,
I mean, middle relievers always have. If he's a middle reliever, if he can get that inning total up to 50, that'll be huge, just value wise. But I mean, I don't think is he going to progress to like your high leverage guy? I don't think so at this point. Yeah, I don't see a way. If you're not striking out 9 per inning or 9 per 9 innings, I don't really see you very often being a high leverage guy anymore. Yeah, sorry, that's rough, but it's kind of modern baseball.
Yeah. As far as the 24 and younger grouping, like I'm looking at it here, would you say Kirby, Frigio, and possibly Showalter then would be the guys to look at? Also, Arson Perez is the other guy. And I know we spent a lot of time in Washington here, but I think there's something to glean from.
I mean, they're interesting. They're the team that came the closest, to a playoff spot.
Yeah, and they've had success in recent past with a lot of the same guys too. So that's why I'm curious about Kobe Foster. Obviously, is going to be here too. So maybe expand to U25 because guys like Foster, James are going to be here. Showalter, Perez, Kirby, and Frigio are really the only other guys I think are worthy of having that conversation now for long-term planning.
Yeah, I think. I mean, first, I would say Jack Kirby is obviously a solid piece of this.
Okay.
If you combine it, Frigio, he was probably slightly below league average for the most part. Just on like the peripherals, but I see what he has going. I like what he has going. I think he's probably got potential to be an above average pitcher with the next couple of years in this league. Showalter, you'd love it if you could make that jump toward more of like a 4th or 5th starter, rather than the fringe 6th starter type of role. But in order to do that, I mean, he doesn't necessarily need to strike out more people, but he's going to need to find a way to keep guys off the bases because they're just making too clean a contact off him.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, Perez, Perez and Johnson are kind of in the same boat of they need to stop giving up hits, man. I mean, Johnston, I think, is more promising than Emerson Perez from what I've seen. Johnston's had a few rough goes of it, but Perez he really cannot find a way to miss a barrel.
Yeah.
Sorry, that sounded really rough. Damn.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Like, I'm more. So here's the thing, like I care less about the bullpen guys. I hate to say it, but like they're easier to kind of roll through. The starters,
tickets. Yeah, hate to be that guy,
but they are. I mean, that's what they are. Yeah. Starters are really what it is. I'm like, honestly, if you had a rotation, maybe not next year, but the year after, of Kobe Foster at the 1, say Kirby continues to develop like he has been at the 2, or even ideally the 3. And then Showalter 4 or 5, and then who were we just saying? I forgot. Frigio had a 4 or 5. Would that be the worst rotation?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think they'll
obviously
kind of
you
get
need one
you.
more 2-3 guy that you can solidly rely on, and that assumes Kobe Foster still has another year or two of quality work in that arm, which I think he does. And assuming he doesn't get picked up, obviously, I mean, like, all these guys, we'd love to see them get signed by a major league team, but going off the assumption that they're not, I
That
honestly
will
think
kind
that'd be a
of.
decent rotation.
The quick math is that would be probably an above average rotation in the Frontier League, probably like 4% better than average rotation.
Okay, so it's not holding you back at all.
Agreed. And that's a good launching point. And again, if you're competitive and you need an extra piece, it gives you flexibility. If you're trying to pick somebody up, you can do that. So yeah, I think that is not a bad starting spot.
Yeah. I'm going to navigate away from Washington now because we're getting bogged down. We do have 3 playoff teams to get to. So,
Sir.
and I'd like to give them the justice they deserve. So let's go to Evansville here. A team that was playing for a championship. And like on some level, I don't feel like they exceeded the expectation, but I also didn't see them pushing Quebec as hard as they did. So they did exceed it, but I'm also not surprised that they exceeded, if that makes sense.
Okay, I can go there with you.
Yeah, it's just, I almost am surprised by the guys that got them there, right? Like Noah Myers at 23 absolutely deserved to have his contract purchased. I think it was the best thing for both parties. Evansville got the full year out of him, and then he got to go somewhere at a young age after proving himself on a decently high level to go succeed elsewhere. I feel like that was a very symbiotic way of things going out, and he was by far the MVP of the team. So props to him. Dakota Phillips filled his role very well. Kona quickly gave you meaningful games. Results could have been a little bit better, but I mean, 12 home runs is not nothing. Jeff Baez obviously looked good with some power numbers there. Jomar Reyes, I'm a batting average guy, as we all know, so I like the 301 in 90 games. That speaks something. I understand the power is not there, but whatever. Yeah, I think there were some guys there, and the pitching wise was good. I mean, 14 pitchers across the whole year, so tells you what you need to know about that. And really 3 dedicated starters, Watland, Zach Smith, but Holdgraffer, great. So that's good. And Parker Brahms' 6 stars are very good. Braden Wood was nice in his starts there. And then the bullpen guys, those lotto tickets were very good and really won the day, it looks like.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess if we're talking pitching, I mean, I think they had some of the. I'm just trying to scroll back through. I mean, I'm just going to tell you we got storms going on right now. So if I lose you, I'll get a hotspot going. We'll be all right. But I will just take a second. But so they had this interesting thing of they had. If I was sort of comparing to league average, they had a higher percentage of their pitching staff better than league average. They had more pitchers better than league average, but the other teams that were kind of close to them in that conversation had like some top end guys. Like we're gonna get to Gateway. Like Gateway had a similar. Like I would say Gateway only about half their pitching was like above league average, but their top 3 were Gabe Holt, Jairus Richards, and Peter Zimmerman. Yeah. I'm sorry. I was talking about I was looking at the batting, but I'm going to the same spot, so I gotta have myself. But Brian Eichhorn and Colin Sullivan probably carried a little bit differently than some guys like Kevin Davis and Parker Brahms, even though they did have great years. You know what I mean? There wasn't like that. It wasn't as shut down as the top level people. But yeah, I mean, really, I would say that the rotation had some question marks. I think if they can fill out the 4 and 5 spots, they're going to be a lot more solid. And that's going to go a long way. I mean, think about that. If they can get, an extra win out of every 6 starts from the 4 and 5, I mean, that's going to be good enough to do the extra 3 wins, push them a little bit further. So, and it gives them more flexibility in the playoffs too, which you sort of get backed up a little bit.
Immediately went too.
Yeah, they got backed up a little bit. I mean, no sleep on how good the bullpen depth is, but it exactly that's what Quebec will do to you. Offensively, Noah Myers, great year. 93 games too. I forget he played so many, especially as so young.
All but 3.
Yeah, I know. but bye Noah.
I
But Kona
know.
Quiggle, bye Noah. Hope you find your dad. Jeffrey Baez, Dakota Phillips,
Sure to right.
Brian Rosario, all of them. I mean, they got what they asked for out of them, I think, for the most part. And they, I think there's not much to say other than, maybe the 8-9 holes could be adjusted a little bit better.
Yeah.
But like Jake Green and George Khalil were kind of bringing their own thing to the table as well. So it's not a lot. It's just it's going to be fine tuning a little bit. It's figuring out the 4 and 5 starting spot. Other than that, weirdly I don't have a ton to say on Evansville. I think it was a good team with only a small number of adjustments to make.
Fair. Yeah, honestly, it feels like they're at a B plus kind of right now. And it's like they do nothing, they still are at a B plus, so it's still a good spot, and they're probably a playoff team. They may have to do a little bit more fighting with some of these other teams. Don't want to do in the preview too much. But yeah, if they go ahead and they get that one extra starter and get maybe 1 or 2 bats, all of a sudden it's like, okay, now we got ourselves something to cook with here. Which also, fun thing for you about Noah Myers, I didn't realize he's Canadian and he got drafted by the Blue Jays. Does not appear to have signed with the Blue Jays, obviously at 23 and having played 3 years of college ball. He didn't do that. He is now in single A Charleston with the Rays. And through 3 games and 10 at bats, he has 3 hits, so batting 300 with a 2-run home run, it looks like. Walked twice, struck out twice. Yeah. OPS of over 1,000. Small sample size, but hey, take them where you get them.
No, hell yeah, man. That'll work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Sorry, that I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Refocusing a little. I mean, it's weird. It's one of the teams that don't have a ton to say. I had more to say on Washington because Washington is, the chaser rather than, the team that's already above the cut line.
I hate to say it because I may get a little flack for it, but I mean,
okay,
everyone knows my shtick already, which is Evansville is such a Midwest team. Like, you don't have much to say about it, but what its positives are, you're like, yeah, it did it. It's good at these things, and what it needs to improve on, you're like, it needs to improve on this. Like, it's very plain, it's very Midwestern, and it's just like, yeah, that's what it is. There's nothing to really dissect here, and like, there's nothing controversial. There's nothing hot takey. There's no real arguing. It's just like, yeah, no, these guys are really good, and this is how they won. Like,
I mean, I won't say it, but I see what you're going for. Do we have any more Evansville thoughts before this goes fully off the rails?
No, but we have Schaumburg thoughts.
Okay, that's fair.
Let's talk Schaumburg now, shall we?
Hell yeah.
I've said it for a long time. Schaumburg's a team that there will be very unimpressive in the regular season, and then they will win in the postseason, and that's what they do. This year, they were not unimpressive in the regular season, but we knew they were a playoff team for quite some time. And then they fell flat in the playoffs. Yeah. So they kind of burst that bubble there. I mean, you had guys like Grant Parks, who was nice. Will Prater as a 24-year-old is interesting. Brett Milazzo was good. Blake Berry got the job done. Fitzgerald had some power, but this really isn't a power organization. Gage Howard is interesting. Chase Dawson's here forever. And, and also Chase is good. I should point that out. Guy hit 332. So, like, he's an all-star forever in my mind. And then Alex Craig is a 32 base stealer, but Chase Dawson stole 40 bags. And somehow I lost them in the shuffle, probably because, as we'll talk about in a second when we get to Gateway, Jarius Richards is really good at stealing bags. But yeah, batting wise, 15 guys the whole way through. I'm noticing the further on we go in the West, the fewer batting transactions we're seeing. It's kind of interesting. But pitching
there were some good offenses. I mean, I feel like they were a little more happy with that team, maybe. Like they're more happy with offense, not trying to make those moves.
That's fair. That's very fair. Before we shift over to pitching wise, batting wise, thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I guess starting from the top of things with that, as I scroll back again.
So much
Yeah,
scrolling.
so I know, so much scrolling. Yeah, it was. I'm just sort of reckoning with like how few home runs they had, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird. I don't know why I had in my head that they were a more power centric team. Maybe it was something in like the way they kind of battled. I had them battling with Gateway. My head in Gateway was, doing a little bit of everything. I felt like, but I don't know. Maybe I'm way off. But yeah, Chase Dawson, Gage Howard, Brett Milazzo, they were the ones that stood out with Coco Figueiredo. I think those four were far and away the offensive powers, and Blake Berry and Alec Craig were they were generally good, but they'd have Schaumburg ran into real trouble when on the games where they didn't have Blake and Alec hitting. And if they had a bad matchup that day, they would really start to run some issues. So it really, I mean, if they faced a good lefty, that could control Dawson and Howard, you would really run into issues down that lineup because think of the lefties you're trying to line up there. I mean, it's there's a number of them, and that kind of, I think, might have stacked up on them a little bit. It's not an overpowering, lefty sort of division or league, in fact, but if they got a good lefty, it was a tough day, especially if it was like out of the pen in a big situation. I think I found that there were a few games like in the 8th or 9th where it felt like they just got, they had something going or they were threatening and just, ran to a good lefty. And that was kind of, you have 5 or 6 best hitters are lefties. And I don't really know the splits on Coco switch hitting, but it's, that's a dangerous mix for sure. Just trying to like sort of think back through again a lot of the games I've watched. Will Prater is interesting. I think Will Prater could be an average, above average contributor in the future. But yeah, it was just, that was really it. It was, this lineup looked very different depending on the type of day you were having. Like if Will Prater shows up and he is hitting like the average, above average batter, and Blake Berry and Alec Craig show up, strong, plus those 4, Brett, Gage, Chase, and Coco, that is a hell of a lineup to deal with. However, if Blake and Alec are having bad matchups, then certainly Will was too, lefty again. All of a sudden now you're dealing with, maybe 4, possibly less, because Brett would also have moments where he looked a little bit overmatched in certain at-bats. Yeah. And that is a much of a lineup. That is going from 7 guys who are a problem to 3, and that doesn't play. Now you're really hoping that Blake Grant Parks comes through for you, or Kyle Fitzgerald, which is a different thing to fall back on. So yeah, and I think that's kind of where we saw Schaumburg, like, all of a sudden kind of fall flat in an unexpected way in certain series, and then again late in the year. I think that was it. It's just bad matchups. They went cold, and they were relying on a bunch of guys who could be taken advantage of in a bad matchup.
Shifting to pitching, because I don't really have anything to add on batting here.
I mean, if we want to talk, we're moving toward pitching. Like, I mean, Christian Scott looked very, very good out of the pen. Aaron Glickstein looked good in the rotation. Like to see him stick in the rotation. He does give up some hits. He does not strike out many guys, but he can work through at least some innings. So, I mean, he threw basically 90 innings. That's what a lot of starters are throwing during the year. So, keep an eye on that one. Kobe Schlottman, I think that's someone that you can kind of look toward moving forward. Young lefty, has the ability to navigate a lineup while not striking a bunch of people out. But he also does not give up a lot of hits. If he can keep the ball in the yard a little better, I think he's going to be solid. But it will be interesting to see how he's handled, now that the league's a little bit more familiar with him.
Yeah.
But again, I don't want to do a preview. It's not a preview. It's a review. Sorry, who was it?
I said Davion White's a little interesting here. 23-year-old guy that got put in a lot of high leverage situations. Seems like it was a mixed bag on the results, just judging off of ERA to innings pitched. And also looks like a lot of hits and a lot of earned runs there.
Yeah, but a lot of strikeouts too.
Yeah, but also 25 walks and 34 innings. So
yeah.
Walks for 9, 6.5. That's, it tells me he's a great thrower, but there's control issues that then put him in bad counts, which make him try to do more than he should. Just judging off of what I'm seeing right here, not doing a deep dive.
Have a ton on him, but it'll be interesting.
Davion Whittle, I called him. I think I said Davion White, but
I think you did. But I thought we were going with that.
My mistake. Apologies there, but yeah.
Well,
now you're officially an indie ball guy. I got your name wrong.
You made it. Okay, so first, I mean, whiff rate's elite for this league.
Yeah.
K rate elite as well.
There, yeah.
Yes, so that's going to be a big key.
A lot.
That's going to be nice, but he's also walking absolutely everybody. So maybe don't. Barrel rate. I mean, hold on, I got to double check to make sure I'm understanding correctly on how he's doing this because it feels like, let's see, might not be great. Hold on, yeah, dude. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, the hard hit rate was really low. Barrel rate was low. It's interesting. He had a really weird profile, man. 3%. He was in third percentile on ground ball rate. Interesting. The expected ERA was not good. So I think what we're saying is they're hitting them, and it's coming in. It might be coming in hot, but it's also coming back out pretty hot too.
Would it be safe to say, again, I'm just trying to make sense of numbers I don't understand.
I understand.
But
yeah. I mean, he's from 93.
It feels like to me he's just like relying on his stuff and just like, I'm going to try to just beat him with sheer power and just force this. And he's finding out like, hey, more mature hitters, you can't just force stuff by all the time. At least not with what he has.
I'm going to go ahead and guess this played a lot better at other levels. Yeah.
So you're telling me that this would work better. I mean, here's the thing though. He was in the Rays system. He was started as an 18-year-old in 2018. Didn't do great in rookie ball, but then he went to Hudson Valley in 19 and in 47 innings the whole year. He had an ERA below 1, so it was working there. Then pandemic, year off in 20 and 21. Goes to single A Charleston, lasts the full year there. Oh, they tried to turn him into a starter. Well, that wasn't a good idea.
No.
Dumped, and then Charleston or Schaumburg.
This is not a starting pitcher profile. I mean, it's
that's just not.
He's thrown 80% fastballs, and they're 93 to 94, which is cool. You can touch 95, but like they're not doing enough. So when you're throwing 80% of the time, you can sit. Guys now can sit on one of those. His tunneling is not very strong. I mean,
I see why they thought it though.
The slider and the changeup is kind of close to where the fastball is, but like if he throws a slider, guys can pretty much pick it up. I would figure, or at least discount it.
Here's the thing. I'm surprised if I'm right. I'm surprised it's coming from the Rays because the Rays would not use my kind of thinking at all. I mean, but here's the thing. I can kind of understand why they thought a 19-year-old in short season ball who had a below 1 ERA as a dude that was a starter could do that on the full season A level. And realistically, like 73 inning, if we're just going like but runs though, 73 innings with a 4.44 isn't like the end of the world. Now, 1-5 record, I'm not going to hate pitching records because they're dependent on other things, but like it does say they're not scoring enough runs to make up for your pitching, right? So, even that's a little exaggeration, but it gets the point done. So, like, I kind of see why the Rays would be like, well, I mean, if a 19-year-old can do that, yeah, it won't be the same when he goes to a higher level, but let's see what he can do. That being said, I agree with you. I don't think he's a starter. I think he's better in the bullpen. He's an interesting guy.
Yeah. It's just so confusing. Seeing that fastball profile, I would not expect him to be throwing that 8% of the time. I mean, somebody's got to get to him and at least work sort of a more convincing changeup out of this. I mean, it seems like nobody is really buying the changeup much. I mean,
I need to know.
He's throwing for strikes, which is good. I don't know. There's a lot. The whole pitch mix needs to be reworked. That's a weird situation there.
I'd like to see him get off of the fastball a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
But
the changeup drop, the tunneling on the changeup
changeup's
is
not
good.
used enough for me to really
Honestly,
say anything
it's,
about it, though.
that's it. I mean, you can essentially discount it if he's throwing that thing 80% of the time. You can just hit fastball and like literally, if he's going to throw you 5 pitches, if you're guessing fastball every time, you get burned 1 out of 5. You still got a strike to give, probably. Like,
Yeah. And that's
yeah,
and here's the thing: like, if you go off of like the whip here for just even just want to look walks for what we're dealing with here, 25 walks in 35 innings. It tells me he's not throwing it accurate.
yeah, that's it.
So like,
Exactly.
you don't have to like. You probably get even if you're guessing fastball every time. Who's to say it's accurate, right? Like, if he's throwing like 92, but it's outside, who gives a shit?
Oh yeah, was it? Nobody cares how hard you throw a ball for.
Exactly. Yeah. So like, it's just wait until he throws one, even if it's like 93, 94. If he throws it and it's in a place you can get it, guess and throw hard. Looks like he's in Windy City now, so that'll be, this is a dude I want to bookmark and look at come June or July. I want to come back and look at Davion because I'm interested to see what he can do with Bobby Jenks.
Yeah, I could see that being a little more, at least, interesting when it comes to the potential there.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting bookmark to make. Someone remind me about this in 3 months.
Do what I can.
Perfect. Yeah, we spent just a lot of time there on Schomburg, and we have Gateway to get to. So I don't think we have much more to say on Schomburg. I'm sure I had another point I was going to make, but maybe like Hunter Hoops. What do we think of him? But still, I think it's probably best to move on to Gateway.
Yeah, I'll follow you there.
Third best team in the league. Was contending for best team in the league for a while. This was the Steve Brook team I expected to see because Steve's a very good manager, and he produced this year. It came out. Now, obviously, there was 2 or 3 guys that really were leading the charge there. Penner, Richard, Stewart are 3 that immediately come to my mind. Zimmerman also. I shouldn't discount Pete Zimmerman at all either. So really, you have a handful of guys. Gabe Holt too. Yeah, actually, it's more diverse than I thought it was. Zach Rakuzin wasn't a liability either. I mean, Gadel also had 11 home runs, so that helps the cause. Same thing with Clint Freeman, who has a 32-year-old. I kind of thought would be better in this league, but they don't really need him to be better either. So, I guess that's that. Pitching wise, I mean, you talked about it earlier. There's a handful of guys that really carried the torch here. Only point I want to really make here is that Carson LaRue is a hell of a name.
Great name. Very strong name, man.
Very fun name.
Love to see that.
80 great stuff. That's why they were contending for a title.
Oh, yeah.
So, hard-hitting analysis to get here.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, pitching-wise, I think their big issue is they really only had one starting pitcher throughout the year who was better than average, and that was Colin Sullivan, who pitched very, very well over 110 innings. So that's, great. Anything they needed from him, he was pretty much able to deliver. He wasn't walking too many people, kept the ball in the yard, not letting guys on base, striking people out. I mean, no notes, 25 years old, perfect. Lucas Weinbergs was then the next starter, and while he had a good record and solid ERA, I think signs point to potential trouble there. I think not like huge. I don't think he's going to like have a collapse or anything, but I just don't see him as having a ton of room for growth and improvement statistically. He's letting a lot of guys on base. He's not striking out a ton of people, and that's just, if you can't keep the traffic off the bases, it's going to be a bit of a headache, especially pitching in Gateway. And then from there, I mean, everyone else is sitting 4.5 or worse ERAs back into the 5s essentially. So Carson LaRue is kind of your third starter with a 4.5. That's not too bad, but if you're trying to compete for championship, it's just that is where it's going to be a problem in a 3-game series, or even in like like battling with other teams down the stretch. That said, I mean, boy, offense had some moments, huh? Like that start to the year was something.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, here's the thing. Like, I'm still like, I look at this team, I'm like, Jerry's Richards always just jumps out at me, man. Like, 16 home runs, sure, but 75 stolen bases always get me, man. Like, I don't know why, but that's like just such an impressive stat for me, because you have to do so many things right And the other team, they have to do a few things wrong for that to happen. And so to steal 75 bases, only get caught 13 times is insane. I mean, what's that success rate then? I don't want to pull a calculator. I'm lazy.
I got you. Hold on.
Yeah, it's going to be 75 into 88.
I got you. It's 85%. That's just good.
Yeah,
that'll work.
Yeah, that's green light territory every time. Roll the dice, see what happens. Such a good player, dude.
I know. That's just a huge thing to have in the middle of that, day to day, just knowing that, somebody's going to cause some chaos too. It's good stuff. Anyway, what else they got? And Gabe Holt, by the way, good year. I mean, he didn't play as much, but, really, really hit well. What was that? Yeah, 435 average while he was in town. Oh, gross. But yeah, Peter Zimmerman, don't sleep on the fact that he had 361. Oh my gosh. I forget that average was so high for him. 481 on base from him. I mean, we got three guys in the lineup with 470 on base percentages. It's going to be an adventure. I think Gateway could find ways to round out that lineup a little bit better. Where I found them running into trouble was against some of the top pitching, obviously, because those three were going to rake, but navigating the rest of the lineup wasn't as challenging. But I also called it when New Jersey came to town, they kind of exposed the fact that you got some offense, but our whole lineup is offense. So they didn't really have, with some great hitting, but not as deep hitting. I felt like they didn't have as good of, they didn't have enough offense to outgun the top offensive teams, and they didn't have enough pitching to outpitch the top pitching teams. And while over the course of a season, there was enough to get the top spot in the division because, you can accumulate lots of wins by having a well above average pitching and hitting. It's once you're matched up individually in a series down, whether it's playoffs or a stretch run, that's where you start to run into those issues where the head-to-head matchups can get exposed. And I think that's what we saw. If I'm remembering that right, I kind of forget that whole playoff run. Why? What happened to me? Was I here? I think I was here.
Is this you? Am I me?
I'm doing fine.
That one was the playoff series was. That was the one where it was back and forth. I remember we were watching the one game live as we were going.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's just that in that one, from what I recall, you had Quebec and New Jersey that was also doing that back and forth thing. So we were more focused on that because we were obsessed with those two teams. And
so those were the games that we would probably go to if. Depending on how it worked out.
You stole my thing from me. I was going to go also because of our Eastern bias.
What are your last thoughts here?
On Gateway or in total?
Sure.
That was a prime opportunity for you to go your pod. But hey.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah. As far as Gateway goes, machine team, they out-hit the hitting team and kind of showed that. Plus, they had a couple more guns, and that worked out. I think they fell victim to the old baseball's played in a series, and they had a bad series. Or they didn't even have a bad series. Evansville just had a better series.
I think that's a good way to frame it.
And it's an unfortunate way for a near 60-win season to end, but that's the sport, right? Sometimes you're on the good end of that, other times you're on the bad end of that. That's just how it goes. As far as total thoughts here for the team, for the West Division as a whole, I thought Gateway and Evansville both exceeded expectations. I think I was a little low on Gateway coming into the year after not seeing the huge turnaround I thought in year one, which in hindsight is more on me for having too high of expectations for year one. I should have had more even-keeled expectations, but still, they did better than I thought, so exceeded certainly. Schaumburg did what I thought they would do. Maybe I will admit, they're kind of in the borderline failed thing. I thought they were going to be contending for a title. They didn't quite get there, but they were a playoff team in the end, so they did meet that. Lake Erie did about what I thought. Again, maybe I wanted them to do a little bit better, but not being a playoff team was the expectation there, and they weren't horrifically bad, right? They were just run of the mill bad for the Frontier League. Horrifically bad is Empire State, right? they still got their
Sure.
30 near 40 wins. So if you're a near 40 win team, like not good, right? Still under 500,
I
but
mean,
double
are we
digits.
saying Lake Erie right now?
Yeah, Lake Erie, yeah.
I mean, I don't know, man. Lake Erie's offense is worse than Empire State.
They won more games than Empire State, though. They have
Right.
more positives to take away from Empire State, right?
I
So, like,
guess.
and they still nearly got to 40 wins, even with that atrocious offense. Imagine they had league average offense.
Sure. No, I agree, but they didn't.
Fair point. Very fair point. So, like, here's the
sorry.
thing. It's just like they met what I thought they would do. I thought they're going to be around 42, 43 wins. Instead, they were at 38 wins. So, like, okay, 4 or 5 wins difference. Not like it really made a difference in the end. I guess you could argue, depending on who they took those wins from, would make a difference. But now we're getting in the weeds. So there's that. Windy City did what I thought they would do, and Joliet was, generally speaking, in the spot I thought they'd be in. Florence, I really was hoping for more. They felt, and maybe it's because Lake Erie hung around for a little bit longer, and Florence never really was hanging around. They were kind of where they were the whole year and stayed that level, and Lake Erie just kind of stunk. But Lake Erie at least was contending for a little bit. Florence never really was in contention. That's why I kind of put them at failed. I thought they would hang around for a while. And Washington was obviously in a failed grouping for me. I mean, I thought they were a playoff team. I thought they were one of the better teams in this division, and they just failed to launch. And it's annoying because they're pieces here. And I do think, though, the pieces bode well going forward. I mean, we've spent how much time talking about them. I think the thoughts on them are clear, but yeah, I was hoping for a lot more than what I got. And I certainly don't think there was a world in which I thought entering into this year they'd be a sub 500 team, much less a team that was 15 games worse. So.
Yeah, I kind of vibe on all that with you. I think I disagree slightly on the Lake Erie point. And also, I don't know that my expectations were that high on Florence. Just again, new manager thing. That's a
fair point.
There's a lot of variance there.
I'll put it like this: I suppose I could lump Florence back into the meat category because I didn't expect them to really contend, but I thought they would hang around longer. And I think, in fairness to me, and I'll point out, or in fairness to the bias that I have here, I'll point out that bias itself, which is I think the start paints the way I view those two teams. In retrospect, they're basically the same when you get down to it. The way they got to their record is different, but the record was essentially the same and the result winds up being the same. And they both have first-year managers that had their struggles. That being said, I think Lake Erie hanging around and being closer to 500 through, I want to say, June, made me believe in them more than Florence, who never really was there, but they also never really, bottomed out. They just stayed where they were. And so I think that taints the way I view them.
So I also think sometimes we look at the, how did they do against expectations differently? Because especially since this past year was my first year covering, beyond just the Atlantic League, I had less familiarity. I think a lot of times you're basing your how did they do versus you base your expectations off of what they did the year before. I based my expectations on kind of the roster that showed up.
Fair.
So I think that's where, when you look at it, you're like, I think they disappointed. They should have put together a better, team for this. They didn't. And I look at it like when I really got acquainted with them, last preseason, my expectation was what I was looking at, not as much, while I was aware of the past, I wasn't maybe as involved in considering it. I wasn't,
I would only counter with, I do factor in that roster. It's just, I don't think we look at the roster in the same way, right? I still keep it on the surface level of it, as opposed to going deeper into the actual, I don't want to say I'll just go say the thing. You're more of an analytics approach to it, which is going to have a deeper stat and it's going to favor certain things. And I don't have that approach, so I'm going to put more weight on different things. So that changes the way we view certain teams.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I think that's part of what changes it too. I will say, though, I do think the past history of the teams certainly do affect the way I view it. I mean, it definitely affects the way I viewed Schaumburg and Washington. It certainly affects the way I view Quebec, although I think Quebec kind of has backed it up enough to earn that. Yeah. I think we're just about done here then.
Yeah, man. Finally made it. We did it.
Yeah.
We did our reviews.
We did all the reviews. They're all done just in time to start the previews.
I'm in pain.
Isn't that lovely? Only thing I want to address before we go to the plugs and get out of here, because we are at the end of the line here, is I promised a Chicago update. Not having it is entirely on me, because I kept saying this week, I need to contact people. I need to do that so that way I can verify all the things I already am very confident in, and all the things I'm like 90% positive are true, but I want to have the double confirmation on it before I really run with it. I neglected to do that. That's entirely on me. And at this point, me saying, I'll have it for you next week doesn't really hold the same amount of weight, because I said that last week and here we are. So in that spirit, I'm not going to say it, but I will say I will try to do my best to get it. And at some point, hopefully before American Association opening day, I would like to make one video on the whole saga, or a bonus pod on the whole saga. Just lay it all out, what we have, and just have it as kind of like the end cap to this. Because I do feel like we are in the end stage of this now. It's been going on for over a month at this point, and I think largely based off of what I've heard at this point, it's just been confirming what we've gotten. And from a lot of people that are close to it, it seems like the initial reporting was damn near 100% spot on. At this point, I don't know really how much more there is to find. I'm going to try to find it, obviously. And I'm going to still contact those people, get the confirmation on the little bit of new stuff I've heard. But to keep repeating the same things over and over again doesn't really do anybody any good. And I feel like at this point, we've done our job, really. We brought it to light. We've mentioned it. And whatever happens from here is kind of out of our hands. And I do hope that the handful of other, podcasts and media outlets that are in this community pick it up and run with it and add pressure to the pile, because just one voice doing it really doesn't, it's not the cacophony you need for change. It doesn't mean you don't try to make that change, but you also have to be realistic in it that the more people that get involved, the better. And there's certainly a handful of other people with a voice that are noted and known in the community that could speak up and say something. And some have, and others haven't. And it's disappointing the ones that haven't, because I'm pretty damn certain they know. And I'm damn certain some of them have listened to the initial reporting. So, and they have the connections to do their own work on it and give their own report on it. So hopefully they'll do that. But hey, what other people do is their decision. So that's where I'll leave that. Point remains, to summarize, I will do my best to get you a Chicago update next week. Expect a video or a bonus pod on the whole thing, tying a bow on it from start to finish, sometime at the end of the month, beginning of May.
That's fine. I'm dealing with my own frustrations of I shouldn't be the one having to report on certain things I'm currently working on. So you and I are in the same boat there. Go team.
Hey, I'm only on topic 1. This is your second fight you're doing with this.
I mean, don't forget the whole Lexington saga.
Yeah, pretty much 3. I mean, like,
I'm an idiot.
Yeah, so you're on number 3. I'm on number 1, and then we both have side vanity projects like, hey, look at New Jersey.
Oh my god! Someday.
I just don't understand why some of these orgs don't like us. I just can't get it.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Can't imagine.
Yeah, if they really hated you, where could they find you to hate watch you?
Indie Nation on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff.
That's good. Do you have a MySpace?
I don't. I should though. That'd be amazing. Rank a bunch of you. Just create some drama.
Yo, that's where we should release the rankings next year.
That'd be amazing.
MySpace.
We got rankings right now. We got like a week and a half till preseason rankings, so we'll have to talk about that.
God. Indie Ball Pod on Twitter, Indie Ball Report everywhere else. Find and subscribe there. Google Podcast is firmly dead now. I have yet to be able to find a good replacement. Amazon Music's the one I've settled on for now because it takes some ads out of my shows, which is nice. So find on one of the platforms. We're just about everywhere. Rate, review, subscribe, yada, yada, yada. You know the deal. So on that note, oh yeah, by the way, we have an interview next week. There's 2 things we just got to finish scheduling, but we will have an interview of some sort next week. Fun little drop in at the end. Till next time, don't forget to play ball.